Welcome delegates to the 2012 National Convention. In 2007, the big issues facing us at our National Convention were the defeat of the Howard government and the campaign for rights at work. As a result of the decisions made in 2007, we were able to sponsor the National Day of Action for the Rights at Work campaign conducted by the ACTU and in the federal election campaign itself. Your convention delegates authorised the expenditure of a significant sum of money to ensure that those campaigns were successful and that Australia was saved from work choices and that rights at work were re-established. We also adopted several seats in the Marginal Seats campaign, which enabled members of the union to mobilise and get involved in grassroots activity in their local region. At this convention, we faced new challenges, such as the possible return of work choices via Tony Abbott's opposition and his billionaire mates. How we handle these challenges is incredibly important. The last convention didn't squib the issue, and neither will this one, because jobs and working conditions for generations to come will depend on the decisions we make today. In 2009, Labor announced a resources super profits tax, and our union, I'm proud to say, was the first union to run in and back it. And that's because we've always had a policy of sharing the mineral wealth. It doesn't belong to the mining companies, it belongs to all of us. And that provoked a bitter reaction from the mining companies.
Hello, I'm the owner of an enormous mining company, and I'm here to talk to you about a very dangerous idea that the government's proposing: the abolition of transportation. I mean, convict labour's the backbone of this industry, and if transportation's abolished, it'll ruin us.
G'day. I'm here to warn you about the dangers of superannuation. We simply can't afford it. If superannuation's introduced, mines across Australia will shut down. It's going to ruin us. Workplace safety laws, it's going to ruin us.
Equal pay for women.
The 8-hour day.
Sick pay.
A fair day's pay for a fair
Holiday
day's work.
pay. Paid overtime, it's preposterous. Workers' compensation, it's going to ruin us.
Hello. I want to talk to you about the mining windfall tax. This time it's true. This time it really is going to ruin us.
The mining company's $20 million media blitz rattled the government and led to the downfall of a Prime Minister. It fell to Julia Gillard, the new Prime Minister, to negotiate with the three biggest mining companies for a new mining tax, where they agreed to pay billions of dollars in tax for the community. On the other hand, Tony Abbott wants to give all that money back to the mining companies and the billionaires and keep it from the nation.
It's tough times. The price of maintaining a fleet of yachts is at record highs, not to mention the soaring cost of caviar.
That's why Tony Abbott's promised to abolish the mining tax and put $10.5 billion back into the pockets of ordinary, everyday billionaires, like me.
That's money that'd be frittered away on hospitals, schools and roads.
Not everyone understands that it's tough at the top. Tony Abbott does.
All the while, our members and their families have been under constant attack by the world's biggest mining companies. When companies attack wages and conditions and undermine communities, our members and their families stand solid. Just have a look at Tahmoor and Yulin as examples. Our union has fought back in the Pilbara and blackened the eye of Rio Tinto with the establishment of the first union lodge there for over 20 years. We've also got the first certified agreement for the rail crew, and we're enormously proud of that resurgence in unionism. And then, of course, there's the prolonged and bitter showdown in Queensland's BHP mines.
Here at BHP, we're winners. And all we want to do with all those profits is look after you. But those bloody union types keep getting in the way. They don't respect your rights. They don't even want to give you the right to avoid your family by working through Christmas. We do. What about all this other stuff about extra training and career planning? You don't want all that. We'll look after you. After all, we look after ourselves. Trust me.
Certainly the VHP campaign has been arguably the toughest campaign that the union's been involved in since the last convention. Made tougher by the fact that despite the massive profits, the billions and billions of dollars that VHP have made out of their mining operations, they're simply flatly refusing to put decent amounts of money, investing them back into the communities to make a better life for our members and their families.
BHP Billiton has reported a 47% rise in second half profit.
Record second half profit.
A record $22.5 billion profit.
My husband works very hard for BHP so that they can make their record profits, but it's never enough. Now they want my husband to work longer hours and more shifts, and they even expect him to work over Christmas. It's just not fair.
Being a BHP family used to mean you were looked after. This was a great town to live in. Now the company have more, but care less.
Fair go, BHP. With a $23 billion profit, you can afford to do the right thing.
It's very clear from early on in the negotiations that BHP were out to pick a fight with the union. I think BHP were, despite their protestations, they would have been happy to this to be the start of the deunionisation campaign, to follow on from what they did in iron ore and put that into the coal mining industry.
First tonight, the fight we had to have. That's the way a senior BHP executive has described the industrial dispute that's paralysing the company's Bowen Basin coal mines. PM has obtained an email in which BHP Billiton's coal chief executive Marcus Randolph warns that the battle with the unions is likely to get worse.
We hear BHP a lot from the CEO on down talking about their concern for the communities in which they operate, the concern for their employees, but the reality is the exact opposite of that.
What's happening in Moranbah is at odds with the way BHP Billiton Chief Executive Marius Kloppers sees the role of his company.
We talk about socially conscious investors.
A view he outlined in this business seminar last October.
We want to create a more profound interlinkage with communities, engage those communities more in supplying our businesses, make sure that those communities benefit from our presence.
The biggest amount of money they've invested in Moranbah, for example, or in the whole of the Queensland coal mining area, in terms of community infrastructure, is an extension of the airport so that they can facilitate fly-in, fly-out operations.
Striking BHP miners and their wives have taken their fight to the mining giant's Melbourne headquarters, seeking a meeting with the company's chief executive.
Central Queensland coal miners and their families have stormed BHP's Melbourne headquarters in a bid to be heard.
Denise Robertson and members of her BHP Mining Families group tried several times to discuss the need for family-friendly housing with Kloppers.
They have here a boarding pass for Marius. For any airline at any date, for Marius Kloppers to come up to Central Queensland and see the impact that BHP is having on the mining communities there.
He has stated in the media before that, that's what you need to do. You need to come to the communities. You need to see firsthand the issues that are there. He's saying it. Come down and see us.
One of the most disturbing things about the negotiations was the demand by BHP to remove the coverage of open cut examiners and deputies from the terms of the certified agreement. This demand for deregulation of safety is appalling, made worse that it was coming on the anniversary, effectively, of the tragedy at Pike River. Pike River only occurred because of the deregulation of the New Zealand coal mining industry. It would never have happened. The Prime Minister admitted it would never have happened in Australia if Australian laws applied, and here we have this huge multinational mining corporation seeking to reduce those safety standards.
My name is Joanne Ufer. I lost my son Joshua in the recent Pike River mine disaster. It's been absolutely devastating for our family and friends. I have been deeply shocked by the evidence of negligence by management at the mine, and I never want any other family to have to go through what we have. Mine safety is a matter of life and death. It is just too important to be handed over just to management.
We have the further example of the downside and the very negative effect of deregulation. If we look at what's occurring in the coal mining industry in the United States, 90% of the fatalities are occurring in non-union mines. We're seeing pushes and demands by big corporations and facilitated by state governments of reducing safety standards. America's got an appalling record for black lung, myositis, emphysema, call it what you will, but it's a disease which we've eliminated from our industry through strong laws and proper enforcement. These things don't happen by chance. These are issues which occur as a result of these pushes to deregulate. You have to have strong laws, you have to have proper enforcement. If you don't have them, then you have appalling death rates, and that's something which we don't want to slip back into in this country. We've had our experiences with deregulation. We had the work choices regime of the Howard government. People too frightened to speak up about safety, people too frightened to do the right thing and not take chances in a workplace. We've been there, we're not going back there, ever. One of the big achievements since last convention has been the confirmation and the protection of the coal mining industry long service leave scheme. It's a scheme which was under attack by the Howard government. The government had its eyes on the $300 odd million which was in the fund. They deliberately changed the laws so that the long service leave provisions had to come out of awards, and it's only with the commitment and the assistance of the Gillard government where we've now got legislation in place which protects, extends and expands the coal mining industry long service leave scheme and hopefully keeps it out of the hands of robbing politicians.
Our union has much to be proud of in the last few years, but we have to set ourselves up for the future. We all know we're not getting a fair shake from this resources boom. We have to demand a fair go for our families and our communities.
This town is delivering a fortune to this country, but where we live, it's hard to see much coming back. Housing prices are out of control, which means everything is more expensive, and there's nowhere decent for the kids to play. Worst of all, the roads are clogged and dangerous. That's why we think a tax on mining profits is fair enough. It's time to put something back.
Barry travels 4 hours to Oakey Creek mine at Gieri and pretty much 4 hours there and 4 hours back. I do worry the roads aren't safe, considering we have kangaroos and other drivers, truck drivers. There's a lot of transport going on the roads that they travel on. There's constant trouble on our roads due to the infrastructure issues as well as the maintenance of the roads. Barry gets home and he generally wants to see the family, but he goes to bed, he's tired. A lot of mining communities are very close. They all stand by each other and stick by each other. We're doing our best to make our miners safe on the roads. We've got driver reviver stops, which are funded by the community, not the mining industry. I would feel so much better knowing that my husband was travelling home on a secure road, a safe road. That's why I think a tax on mining profits is fair enough. It's time to put something back.
The downside of the boom has hit the manufacturing sector, with thousands of workers being retrenched because of the high Australian dollar. The construction workers face competition from foreign labour because of the guest labour program. So now our union as a whole, across the 3 divisions, have got a campaign about how we deal with the mining boom and how we get a fair share for the whole country.
G'day, I'm Steve. This is my story. I'm a production operator. I operate a 4100 shovel. There's always been good work there and good money for me, so shouldn't have too many dramas in the future. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be able to work in the mining industry.
There are 2 sides to every story.
I know a lot of people have been knocked back.
The mining companies want to bring in thousands of temporary overseas workers, yet thousands of Australians are looking for mining jobs. The mining companies don't own the resource. We all do. Let's spread it around.
Since I was a kid on my dairy farm. I've been working since I've been about 7 years old. I'm Tim, and this is my story. Well, if I was to get employment in a mine, yes, I'd be prepared to undertake training. I mean, of course, you'll do anything, or be prepared to do anything if you're serious about getting a job.
There are 2 sides to every story.
I just want to be given a chance. It's all anybody wants, really.
The mining boom's been good for Australia, but not so good for Tim. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to create more jobs for more Australians, instead of bringing in temporary overseas workers. The mining companies don't own the resource. We all do. Let's spread it around.